How my perfect job ruined my passion. I knew something inside me had broken the moment I closed my laptop one night, stared at the blank wall in front of me, and realized I felt nothing. Not relief, not pride, not even exhaustion. Just nothing. The work that once lit me up, the thing I used to breathe for, had turned into a machine that was grinding me down until I was unrecognizable. And the cruelest part? This was supposed to be my dream job, the one people said you'd be crazy to walk away from. But here I was, sitting in the dark, wondering when exactly passion had curdled into dread, and even scarier, wondering if I could ever get it back. That night was the first time the thought crossed my mind. What if this job didn't make me anymore? What if it ruined me? And once the thought entered my head, it never left. To explain how I got here, I need to rewind, because there was a time when this wasn't just a job to me, it was everything. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to do this. While my classmates dreamed about being doctors, pilots, or celebrities, I was sketching designs, staying up late to perfect ideas, and chasing inspiration wherever I could find it. People used to tell me I had the spark, that rare kind of drive that only a few people have, and I believed them. In college, I sacrificed weekends, dates, even sleep to get better at my craft. It didn't feel like a sacrifice because I loved it. I didn't care about parties when I could be building something new. I didn't care about being broke because passion felt richer than money. So when I landed what everyone, including me, called the perfect job, it felt like the universe rewarding me. The position was competitive, the company was known worldwide, and the people around me were all ridiculously talented. It was the kind of role you brag about at family dinners, the one people nod at with envy. I was supposed to be happy. And at first, I was. The first few weeks were intoxicating. Everything felt shiny and alive. I told myself I was exactly where I was meant to be. I even called my mom after my first big project and told her, this is it. This is what I've worked for. But slowly, cracks started to show. Small things at first. Deadlines so impossible they left me eating dinner at my desk at 11 p.m. Supervisors who praised creativity but only wanted what was safe and sellable. The quiet competition between coworkers, where everyone smiled to your face but you knew they were ready to cut you down the second you slipped. I told myself this was normal, that greatness required sacrifice, that I just needed to push harder. But then came the day that changed everything. I had worked for weeks on a project I thought was brilliant. It wasn't just work, it felt like me. Every piece of it had my heart stamped on it. I stayed late, skipped weekends, poured myself dry to make it perfect. When I finally presented it, I expected the room to light up. Instead, my boss cut me off halfway through and said flatly, "This isn't what we're looking for. Redo it." Just like that. No discussion, no recognition of the effort, just dismissal. I laughed it off in front of everyone, but that night when I got home, I sat on the kitchen floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. That was the first time the thought of quitting flickered across my mind. But I didn't quit. I couldn't. Not when I'd worked so hard to get there. Not when people would look at me and say I was insane to walk away from. So I stayed. I stayed and told myself it would get better. Only it didn't. Every day I felt a little piece of myself slip away. The late nights became normal. The joy was gone. I stopped creating for fun because I didn't have energy left. And when friends asked how I was, I lied. I said I was living the dream, even though I was slowly dying inside. Then came the breaking point. The moment I started the story with. The night I sat in my dark room, staring at a wall, and felt nothing. Not joy, not pride, not even exhaustion. Just nothing. Then the email came. The one that would rip the last thread of passion I had left. The email hit my inbox just after midnight. I wasn't supposed to be checking my work email at that hour, but insomnia had become my new normal. I'd lie awake, scrolling, refreshing, hoping for something, anything that made me feel alive again. When I saw the subject line, my stomach sunk. Urgent revision required immediately. It was from my boss. I opened it, my heart racing. Inside was a wall of text ripping apart the project I had submitted earlier that week. Not a single kind word, not even the usual corporate sugarcoating. Just sentence after sentence telling me how I'd missed the mark, how my concept lacked focus, how my execution was disappointing. But then came the line that gutted me. Frankly, I'm beginning to question whether this role is the right fit for you. I stared at the screen, the words burning into my brain. This was supposed to be my role, my dream, the one I'd fought for, the one people told me was made for me. And here was my boss, someone I desperately wanted to impress, suggesting I didn't belong. I don't even remember closing my laptop. One second I was sitting at my desk, and the next I was on the floor, my back against the wall, my chest heaving like I couldn't catch enough air. I wanted to scream, but all that came out was silence. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat there, replaying every moment that had led me to this point. The sacrifices, the long nights, the joy I once felt, and how now it all felt meaningless. The next morning, I dragged myself into the office, bleary-eyed. No one noticed. No one cared. Everyone was buried in their own deadlines. The atmosphere was suffocating. Typing, phones ringing, the hum of fluorescent lights. At lunch, I finally broke down and told a coworker, someone I thought I could trust. She gave me a half smile and said, "Oh, they do that to everyone. Don't take it personally." But I had taken it personally, because this wasn't just a job for me, it was my passion, my identity, and now it was being dismantled piece by piece. That night when I got home, I opened my sketchbook for the first time in weeks. I thought maybe I could create something just for me, something outside of the crushing expectations. But when I picked up the pencil, my hand froze. Nothing came. The page stayed blank. And that terrified me more than anything, because it wasn't just that my job was draining me, it was that it had stolen the very thing I loved most, the thing that had always been my safe place. I slammed the sketchbook shut, my hands shaking, and that's when I realized I wasn't just losing my passion, I was losing myself. The next day, something happened at work that pushed me even further, something I couldn't ignore. The next morning, I walked into the office with the weight of 1,000 bricks on my shoulders. My eyes felt heavy, my chest tight, but I told myself, just get through the day. That had become my mantra. But then I saw it. Pinned to the communal board in the break room was a printout of a project proposal. My project proposal, the one my boss had shredded to pieces in that midnight email, only now it was stripped of my name, rebranded under another team member's. I stood there frozen, my coffee cooling in my hand. My chest went hot, then cold. My name wasn't anywhere on it, but the words, the ideas, they were mine. Every detail was mine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear it down. But instead, I just stood there, my throat tight, while coworkers walked past, glancing at it, nodding, even saying things like, "Wow, this is good. This might be the direction we need." I couldn't move. Later, in the weekly meeting, my boss praised the new direction of the project, praised the team member who had finally understood the assignment. Everyone clapped. I sat there, my hands pressed into my knees, trying to stop them from shaking. And the worst part? The coworker who got credit didn't even look at me, not once. They just sat there, soaking it up, as if my work had always been theirs. I felt something in me snap. For the first time since starting this job, I felt anger, not just at my boss, not just at my coworker, but at myself, for staying, for letting this place drain me, for letting them take what was mine. That night, I walked home instead of taking the train. It was raining, but I didn't care. My head was spinning. Over and over, I asked myself, why am I still here? Why am I letting them ruin the thing I love? By the time I reached my apartment, I had made a decision. I was going to confront my boss. I didn't know what I'd say or what it would lead to, but I couldn't keep swallowing the poison. The next day, I marched into their office, heart hammering. I opened my mouth to speak, and then I saw something on their desk that stopped me cold. Something that made me realize this went deeper than I thought. I had stormed it to my boss's office ready to fight, ready to finally spill everything that had been choking me for weeks. But the second my eyes landed on their desk, the words froze in my throat. There, in plain sight, was a glossy folder stamped with the company's logo. The label on the front read, "Talent Restructuring, Phase 2. Curious, I glanced down at the top page, peeking out, and there it was. My name, highlighted. Underneath, in bold print, recommended for transition. My stomach flipped. My chest burned. Transition? I didn't even need to guess what that meant. It was the corporate way of saying, we're getting rid of you. For a moment, the room spun. I gripped the edge of the chair to keep from falling. My boss hadn't seen me notice the folder yet. They were rambling on about upcoming deadlines, about the big opportunities on the horizon. Their words felt like static. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. I tried to swallow, but my throat was bone dry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear it down. But instead, I just stood there, my throat tight, while coworkers walked past, glancing at it, nodding, even saying things like, wow, this is good. This might be the direction we need. I couldn't move. When I finally managed to leave the office, I didn't remember walking. I didn't remember taking the elevator or pushing through the glass doors. I just remember ending up outside in the glaring sunlight, my body trembling, my hands clammy. I sat on a bench across the street and stared at the building, the shiny logo gleaming at the top like a cruel reminder. All this time, I thought my biggest fear was losing my passion, but now I realized the truth. I was losing it because of them, because I had handed my dream over to people who didn't care about me, my work, or the fire that used to live inside me. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept spinning. Do I wait for them to fire me? Do I quit before they get the chance? Do I even care anymore? By dawn, I thought I had made peace with it, but then something else happened, something I never expected. The next morning, I got an email from HR. The subject line was short, cold, and terrifying. The subject line, "Immediate action required," flashed on my screen like a warning siren. My hands were trembling as I clicked it open. The email was short. Too short. "Please report to HR immediately at 10 a.m. for a mandatory meeting regarding your role and performance." That was it. No context, no explanation, just a summons. I felt sick. I already knew what this was. The folder on my boss's desk had been the prelude, and now this was the finale. They were cutting me loose. But what gutted me wasn't the job itself, it was what the job had done to me. I thought back to when I first got the offer, how I celebrated, how I called my parents crying with joy, how I told all my friends, this is it, this is the one, how my heart beat faster just thinking about the work I'd get to do. And now I was showing up to an office where my ideas were stolen, my worth dismantled, and my identity stripped away. I wasn't proud anymore. I wasn't even myself anymore. At 10 a.m. sharp, I walked into HR. The air felt heavy, suffocating. The HR manager sat there with a blank expression, my boss beside her. The folder was on the table, opened, pages spread out like my life was nothing but bullet points. They didn't even look at me when they spoke. We've reviewed your recent contributions and performance. It's clear that there's a misalignment between your skills and the needs of this role. Misalignment. The word rang in my ears. That was their excuse. I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind them of the late nights, the weekends, the blood I had poured into this job. I wanted to show them the sketchbook at home filled with blank pages, proof of what they had taken from me. But instead, I just sat there, numb. They slid a paper across the table. Severance. They were letting me go. I stared at it for a long time, and then something inside me cracked. Not with despair, but with clarity. Because in that moment, I finally understood they hadn't ruined me. I had let them. They had stolen my passion because I had given them the keys to it. I had placed it in their hands, begging for approval, begging for validation, and in the process, I had lost the thing I once loved for me. I picked up the paper. My boss tried to say something, some corporate hollow line about future opportunities, but I cut them off. I said, keep it. I pushed the folder back toward them. You can take the job, you can even take the credit, but you don't get to keep me. And then I walked out. I didn't look back at the office building, not once. The glass doors closed behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. But later that night, when I sat in front of my sketchbook again, I opened it to a blank page, picked up my pencil, and still, my hand wouldn't move. The passion was gone, and I had no idea if it would ever come back. A few weeks later, I got curious and checked the company's website. Front and center was the new project they had launched, the one built on my stolen proposal. My words, my vision, my work, all out there for the world to see. Only now, it was winning awards, getting press. Everyone was calling it revolutionary. I stared at the screen, heart hammering, until I noticed the small line at the bottom of the article. Lead designer, my name. They had kept my name on it. Not to give me credit, not to honor me, but to make it look like I was still there, still theirs, long after they had gutted me. And in that moment, I realized I had walked away from them, but they hadn't walked away from me. They were still holding my passion hostage.